So one of the reasons I like to come up with something provocative, like I've done 20,000 hours of studying email, so it makes me a double genius, is it's a risky strategy. So if I fail, you guys are going to think, idiot. So I'm forcing myself to be really good. The other thing I find that I have to do is I have to get angry during my presentation because it makes me present better. So expect me to get angry, expect high energy, and I'm going to try and deliver to that. Before I do, don't you think great organization, great event, Christine and the team, fantastic, thank you. I think we should clap for them, don't you? I think that's really good. And also, this is my first time in Riga, it's my first time in Latvia, and I haven't been here very long, and I haven't had time to see very much, but I've had a couple of observations and experiences. So last night, we went to dinner, and I was introduced to Riga balsam. And I think we've discovered the cure for Ebola. You'll be very safe. If you're going to Africa, take a bottle of that, you'll be fine. The second thing I noticed, which is kind of an interesting one, is I'm not a small guy. I'm 188 meters or something like that, 1.88 centimeters. 188 centimeters, 1.88 meters. And I think I shake hands very strongly. But goodness me, everybody whose hand I've shaken here has nearly killed me. Is it just the 4, 5, 6 people I've shaken hands with, or is it just common to Latvia that you guys want to kill the people you shake hands with? It's really good. Apparently it shows confidence and maturity and manliness and everything else. So all the ladies here, I think, are in a good place. Email. I always start my presentations by trying to tell you what we're looking at. Hands up, who here is responsibility for email marketing? Quite a few. That's probably why you're staying here. Is that because everybody has responsibility for email marketing, or is it because you came specially to hear me? I'll find out that out later on afterwards. But one of the things about email is that everyone tries to make it like not important. They try and make it small, okay? It's the one thing that everybody in the world has an opinion about. So I've been in Chicago in a taxi, and the taxi driver who doesn't know anything about email, because I asked, when I said, what do you do? I'm an email marketer. They said, oh God, email, I ignore it. Doesn't everybody ignore email? And it's ridiculous. The data doesn't support that in any way. So I'm going to start by saying that email, and I'm going to annoy the cameraman as well because I'm walking the wrong way. So email is absolutely huge. It is the biggest channel. It is the only universal application. It's the one thing that everybody has to have if they're of any value. So first of all, let's look at the traffic generated by email every day, okay? There are 200 billion emails a day sent, not including spam. So this is legitimate emails. So what we did was we did a rough calculation based on the click rate on banners and mobile and everything else. And so we translated it into countries. So if all the traffic that Facebook generates was a country, it would be the United States. Okay? Search would be Mexico. So think, everyone thinks search, there's so much of it, right? But it's only Mexico in the scheme of the world. Display advertising is only Great Britain. And Twitter would be Germany. Email is the rest of the world. Everybody else in the world is how much email traffic is on a scale compared to everyone else. So that's China, 2 billion, India, 1 billion, right? It's massive. And yet we act as if A, email is going to die, or B, it's not important. Anyone without an email address is the digital equivalent of a homeless person. I mean, why would you want to try? You can't. A person without an email address cannot buy anything online. Because you cannot have an online transaction without an email address. Now, what value is someone who cannot buy anything online to anyone in this room? Anyone here whose target audience is people with no email addresses and no money? It's ridiculous. And you see, it just gets me angry because I have spent 15 years studying email, what makes it work, how it works, and everything else, and yet I'll go to a dinner party and a lawyer will say, email. Kids, don't you notice kids aren't interested in email anymore? And I go, shut the fuck up, what do you know? What do you know? You're a lawyer. I don't turn around and say, have you noticed how the new government legislation has made your life more difficult? Shut up. Hands up, email marketers. How many times you've been somewhere and said you do email and they say you're a spammer? How many times? Everybody. The bottom line is everyone's going to think you're a spammer anyway, so get over it. It doesn't really matter. I told you that if you don't have an email address, you can't transact online. If you don't have an email address, you can't use Android. If you don't have an email address, you can't use iOS. Think about it. Isn't that staggering? And yet we spend all our time trying to make out that there's something better than email out there or more powerful, and that's something I completely disagree with. And in fact, what's really interesting, and you saw this in the earlier presentation by Julian about big brands. Did you notice 4 or 5 of the top 10 or the top 5 were tech companies? And tech companies are moving into media. And tech companies control all the branding portals. Tech companies take all your money. And tech companies rely on email. Do you know that Facebook is the largest sender of email in the whole world? They send something like 6% of global traffic. And yet Zuckerberg stood up and said, we're going to kill email. They can't. So there's people who spend all day on Facebook, right? You don't need to email those because those people don't have a life. They're on Facebook all the time. If you have a life, you must spend time away from Facebook. And if you spend time away from Facebook, you lose the habit a little bit. And so what do? They send you an email to tell you to come back to Facebook. Every media owner, and we talked about the IAB today, every media owner, their #1 source of traffic to their website to read their fantastic, wonderful content is their email program. Hands up anyone who disagrees with that statement. Who here is in media or advertising and finds that email is not their #1 generator of traffic to their website? And you're telling me that there's more important stuff out there. Let's play, let's pretend. And by the way, when I saw this, I thought, what do you think? Could I be the model? I told you I like to provoke you. Some of you will be hating me already, and I don't mind. Who the hell does he think he is? But it's not too bad, is it? I don't know. So, we're going to play Let's Pretend. 2 brands, Gap, that sells lots of things. Levi's only sells jeans, pretty much. I mean, they both sell lots of things, but Gap is more of a general clothing store. Gap decides that they only want to send an email when they have something relevant to say, and people hate email, so they're only going to send 1 email a month. Levi's go, I'm sending 2 a week. Now, you're all on their list, and all of you get 1 email a month from Gap and 2 emails a week from Levi's. When you next buy a pair of jeans, hands up here, those that think Gap is going to get your purchase. Hands up who think Levi's. It's simple. Advertising and marketing and branding is about reach and frequency. Reach means the number of people that see the message. Frequency is the amount of times they see the message. If my list is 1 million and yours is 100,000, there is no amount of relevancy that can make your 100,000 beat my 1 million. See, I'm getting angry. No amount of relevancy can beat that. And if you send 1 a month and I send 2 a week, it's impossible for you to beat me, all things being equal. So the challenge to a marketer isn't how do I send less email, it's how do I make the people on my list want more. And by the way, I love unsubscribes. We give people the right to choose and then we get upset when they choose. And here's a funny thing, if you send more email, your unsubscribe rate goes down because the people who hate you are going off the list. And if you did a before and after survey, you would find more people say they love your brand after you increase your frequency than say it before. So as I said before, email delivers more interactions than any other channel. By a long way. In fact, more than everything else combined. So we're in an age of big data and content marketing. So, I have all this wonderful content, I put it on my website, then I go and pay Google or someone else to drive people to that content, or I send the content to them via the email. Which makes more sense? And the click rate on emails is 5% is low, 10% is common. Some people get 15 or 20% click rate, depending on whether they're B2B or B2C. You can't get that anywhere else. So, first of all, more emails are sent, 200 billion. Secondly, the click rate is very, very high. And all of these interactions are putting information back into your big database so you have a better understanding of what your customers want and need than if you don't send email. Plus, you are only paying 0.003 of a euro to send an email to one person. How much you pay for a click? How much you pay Google for a click? How much you pay for a click from a band campaign? It's staggering. So, if you want to generate a lot of understanding about your customers, and you want a lot of people to see the wonderful content that you spend ages creating, there's a simple answer. Unfortunately, it's a boring answer, and the more you do it, everyone calls you a spammer. Get over it. Again, this is a representation of the number of clicks as a percentage of the total clicks in the universe. So in actual fact, in terms of digital, email is the biggest channel by a long way. And to sort of go against something was said earlier, it is a broadcast channel. Everybody here has more relevant prospects and customers on their list than they can get in any TV show, any magazine, any newspaper, any radio. And if you don't, you should. So email is not just, and by the way, the whole of this conference, I really value it, has been mostly about this bit of the channel, the exception being the branding piece. And email is very, very good at that. 5%, 10% click rate. That's a staggering conversion rate. But it's brilliant at the top of the channel because you can send more opportunities to interact to your audience, and they will interact with that content more via email than anything else. And in fact, you use email to drive people to the content everywhere else on the website. Mobile, the reason mobile's so powerful? Because they suddenly started making it easy to get your email. The number one activity people do on their mobile is email. Staggering. So there are two types of marketing. And I'm quoting Sheryl Sandberg, CEO of Facebook, who left Google for Facebook because of this. There's demand response marketing, giving you what I know or I think you want, trying to predict when you're going to buy. The conversion piece, yeah? You came to my website, you looked at Chicago hotels, I'm going to send you a flight to Chicago. Then there's demand generation, which is making you want what I have. So it's making you want brown, sweet liquid by calling it Coca-Cola, spending several billion dollars a year telling you Coke is it, and making you want to kill yourself with sugar. Now, which is more clever? I think demand generation is clever because it's fulfilling your business needs. Now, this is very contrary to what everyone thinks. Well, find out what the customer wants, and when you know exactly what they want, then give it to them. What if what they want drives you out of business? Are you going to give them that? Let them pick the channel, the most expensive one. Of course, fine, here. You have a warehouse full of purple fridges, and you go and say, what do you want? And they say, white fridges, and you go, sorry, I better close my business down. No, you make them want purple fridges. That's what you do. It's called marketing. And most people here, what's your job title? Something marketer. But we forget that. Here's my thoughts about prediction. Anybody here watch National Geographic and those kind of channels where you have these wildebeests that every year at a certain time come to cross this big river? Hands up, has anyone seen that before? Right. And I can predict every year that several million wildebeest within 1 or 2 weeks will be here, and then they're going to try and cross the river. And in the river are crocodiles, but that's another story. So whilst I can predict that there'll be 1 million wildebeest coming here, can I predict that this one will be here next year? No. You can't. So predictions, I think, should be about big numbers and not small numbers. So if you're looking at the bell curve, try and predict for the top of the big bit of the bell curve. Don't try and predict for the outliers, because you cannot do that. There'll be people hating me already. So, sending more email works, even in this world that we're in, where everybody is optimizing everything and making sure that everything's right and relevant and everything else. But the point of relevance is to make people want your email more. It's not to allow you to send them less. And the reason people struggle with this concept is they don't ask why. And here's why. We're obsessed with what and not why. So the first type of email was, how do I get in the inbox? What time of day should I send an email? What's the best subject line? 2.0, where we are now, is optimization. You know, what triggers should I use? Does a trigger work when it goes on a Thursday or a Friday, 5 minutes after they interact, 10 minutes after they interact? But the future is exploring why people respond to email. Incidentally, it's called marketing. And you have to read this book. It's by Daniel Kahneman, and it's about how human beings think. And there's system one. Almost everything we do is system one. It's instinct. If I say 2 plus 2, you go 4. If I say 17 plus 17, starts to become a bit shaky, 34. So if you were walking, and by the way, system 2 is hard, and that's why we use system 1 so much. And by the way, both are easy to fool. System 1 or system 2, you can make people look like idiots if you know what you're doing. So system 1, you can say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, yeah? Now try 17. 17, 34, 51, yeah, whatever, yeah? 51. It's hard, and you will freeze. You have to stop. So the problem is, we spend a lot of time thinking that every time someone gets an email, they use system 2. Do you know why? It's because we're marketers. We're very intelligent people. If we're not marketers, we're engineers. We've had this fantastic software that delivers this fantastic marketing experience. And we assume that every time you get an email from, say, I'm just going to pick a brand, Ford, cars, right? Because it's a global brand. You get it and you go, it's 12:21. I've got my email from Ford. They usually send it at 12:15. What's wrong with them? Look, they didn't personalize it. They know everything about me, and they didn't put it in there. I am never going to buy a Ford car in my life, and I'm going to mark it spam. But that's not what you do. You just go, forward email, no, not interested, delete. But that act is one of the most powerful brand impressions because it's subliminal. Subliminal advertising is banned for a reason, because it's so powerful. You can't do it on TV, but you can do it in the inbox. So email works because it's everywhere. There is no other channel that can go everywhere with you. The toilet, the bath, the bedroom, the street, everywhere. Except for a mountain in North Carolina where I was at, where my brother lives, and the nearest internet connection was 30 miles away. I nearly died. No cell phone. Can you imagine that? 30 miles, no cell phone connection, no internet. It was terrible. And the second thing is that email, even on the desktop, is kind of this close to you. That's personal space, right? If any human being is this close to you, you will probably have sex with them, or you could. And the message is going straight into our brain through our eyes. And we heard a lot today about the power of visualization, yeah? It's right there. It's personal. And of all the channels, it's the one that consumers say is the least intrusive of all because it's so easy to manage. Open, read, delete. Open, read, save. Open, read, come back and buy later. And so frequency works in email, and we talked about this trust, is because familiarity breeds trust. I'm going to go back now 6 million years to when we were all little worms, say 2 billion years ago. And when I'm a little worm and I come out from under my stone and I see on the stone outside my front door, there's a yellow dot. And I go, what's that? Nothing happens. So every day for about 6 slug years, the yellow dot is there. And then one day I come out, it's not there. It's like, where's my yellow dot? That's what familiarity is all about. And we talked about it with brands. So if you wait until someone searches for a fridge or a car and they have never heard of your brand or you haven't done the job at the top of the funnel, they will never buy off you. And if they do, it's because you're only competing on price. There's no value involved at all. So your email program is a way of consistently reminding people in a space that's this close, so close that they could have sex with your brand, going directly into their brain, and that's what makes it work. And that's why brands in different countries use the same look and feel so that when you go to a different country, you know you can eat those chips safely. Here's a confusing one. In America, Milky Way is like Mars bar, and Three Musketeers is like Milky Way. I can tell you now, an English person who wants a Mars bar is never going to buy that. That's brand for you. And that's why, has anyone played the sort of brand recognition game on their iPad or Android tablet? No? Yes? It's amazing how many brands you know, even though you've never bought that product. Why do they do that? Is that a waste of time? No, because they will never be able to predict exactly when you will want that product. Which is why I'm an expert on feminine hygiene products. I know all the brands. Why do I know OB, Tampon, Tampax? I've gone blank now, but I can name about 4 or 5. Now, why should I know that? Isn't that irrelevant? And the answer is because they couldn't know that I have 3 daughters and a wife who sends me to buy them in the store. I'll get a phone. Oh, we've run out of tampons. I'm like, why? That's like me running out of beer. It doesn't happen, right? But if I went and I saw a brand I hadn't seen, do you think I would dare buy it and take it home? No. I wouldn't. So make sure your brand is familiar in people's minds, and email is a very cost-effective way of achieving it. So I've already cheated and told you about this slide already. 2.0 assumes that everyone uses System 2 when actually most of the decision-making in email is System 1. It's instinctive, it's habit, and you have to create the habit of them processing and remembering your name. Do you have commercials here? Hands up. Do you have commercials here that everybody hates but everybody knows? Yeah, we have them. Yeah. You hate the tune, you hate it. Yeah, it's like, for us, compare the market, right? No, they have these meerkats, and their slogan is compare the meerkat market. And when it first came out, it was funny. They've been doing it for 5 years. I'm sick to death of those bloody animals. I hate the commercial. But if I'm going to do a comparison on insurance, what's the first brand going to come in my mind? And so actually, if you do your job properly in broadcast terms, you overcome relevance or like or dislike or anything else. The point is they're subscribed to you and you keep them doing that. Email influences all channels. This might surprise you. Now, this is where I go, look, I'll prove it to you, yeah? So here's some data. We overlaid people searching Google for LinkedIn with LinkedIn's email send volume. Interesting, isn't it? They send more people search for LinkedIn. They send less people search for LinkedIn. It's driving their behavior. This is Facebook. When Facebook send more email, more people type in Facebook into the URL. And when they send less people do. So when I said that the battle of the tech giants, what's actually happening is that Google has worked out that when you put the social notifications into a social box, no one actually looks at it. The promotions, they go and take it out and put it back into the inbox because they actually want them. So don't be afraid of the promotions tab. It actually works, and it's taught Google a lot about email. Here's some analysis we've done for one of our clients. Attribution, to show them, because no one wants to believe email is working. So I have to show them, and it's really annoying. I have to say, don't be stupid. So this is Google Analytics by channel, okay? Revenue per day. And the dark one is days when they send email to their entire list, and the light one is days when they don't. It impacts everything. Natural search, paid search. If I were you, I would turn off my paid search campaigns on the day I send my newsletter, because you're sending people to go and search for you, and they click on the paid link, and you're paying for someone you didn't have to pay for. So how do you leverage it? Okay, hands up anyone who's been to a toilet and seen like a fly painted on it. If any women hold up their hands, I'll be disappointed. The reason that is there, and this comes from Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, they had a problem with men messing the floor in front of the urinals, right? They're like... They tried everything. Please be careful. Aim straight. I will fine you. None of it worked, right? And then someone put the little fly there, and the cleaning bill dropped by about 40%. Just like that. Which reminds me of a story. In the days before cell phone use was very common like it is today, and not everyone got emails, and everyone had a BlackBerry. I've still got one. I've got two phones, but one's a BlackBerry. I was in New York in a restaurant, and I went to the toilet, and I saw someone using texting or emailing on their cell phone. And I went back to the table, and I said, oh, guys, I've just seen this really funny thing. And they said, what? I said, there's this guy texting while he's urinating. He's having a pee and texting. And they went, yeah, whatever. I said, yeah, but halfway through he did this. That's why they need the fly. That's a true story. I actually saw that. So the nudge effect means that people don't actually, and this is an amazing thing, you don't have to open an email to be influenced by it. This is another of our clients, and we did the data for them. This line here is all sales. Where the arrow is pointing is the time the email went out. This is the hours going to before, and this is the hours and days after, okay? As you can see, email had an impact on all sales. But the blue line is sales from people who didn't open the email. That's staggering. And you don't have to open an email that says, great deals in store this weekend. Don't forget to renew your insurance. And in fact, we had a client, I was talking to the Guardian newspaper, and they had a monthly supplement for sports, and they used to have an email. 90,000 people said, oh, can we tell us when it's out? And 90,000, the open rate on that email was about 2%. And so they decided to kill it. And that week, the sales in the stores crashed. Because they didn't need to open the email. We're obsessed with open rates. The brand impression is very, very powerful. Here's another one. This is revenue. This is a client who sends different amounts of emails. Some people get more segmented, some people less, etc., etc. So some people get 1 email, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 12. Very few people get 12, but they're doing transaction and everything else. So, thank you. I'm halfway. And I'm on time, which isn't bad for me. So as you can see, people who got 3 had more revenue, spent more. 6 spent more. They got more revenue from 7. But this is revenue from people who didn't open any of the emails. So not opening 7 emails will make you spend more than not opening 3 emails. Think about it. It's staggering. You see what I use the 20,000 hours for? It's figuring this crap out so I could share it with you. And if you look, you'll find exactly the same thing. When you send an email out to the whole list, every channel gets a boost. Natural search, paid search, affiliates, every channel gets a boost. Your retail outlets, the store will have more people going in. That's why we can't break the email habit, because actually it's driving almost all our activity, but we love to pretend that something else is doing it, our genius, our wonderful conversion and segmentation and everything else. Now, before you think that all I'm saying is just send more email, sending more email is harder than sending less. Think about it. Any idiot cannot send an email. It's the easiest thing in the world to just stay in bed, right? It's harder in every respect to send 2 emails a day than it is to send 1 a month. It takes more resource. It takes more creativity. It takes more understanding of your customers. It takes more relevance. It takes more intelligence. It takes more. So actually, I'm saying you guys are not working hard enough, right? Because you're trying to optimize on the smaller number rather than raise the number and optimize on that. And when you've done everything, then maybe you can start optimizing. And I'm not saying don't do conversion either. Conversion is important. So, here's a classic campaign, Expedia. Hands up, anyone on Expedia's list? Maybe not. They do have a presence here, but obviously not a big one. So I do a lot of traveling. So I do Expedia, Orbitz, Travelocity, I get all of them. And it doesn't bother me because I travel. And one of the things that's interesting, about 4 years ago, I was thinking about how often I get emails from Expedia, and I honestly thought I got 1 or 2 a week, and then when I counted, I was getting 4 a week. So the way people feel about your brand is more important to how they feel about your email than how they feel about your email will do to the brand. Think about it. If you really piss someone off in the store, or by bad customer service, or someone is rude to them on the call center, the next email that comes, what are they going to do? Spam. It's revenge. So you need to fix that and not say, oh God, my email program, that's what the problem is. No, it's because your customer service is crap, your brand is shit, and your pricing is wrong. That's when they unsubscribe. That's when they unsubscribe. So Expedia, it's in it, 24-hour sale, 24-hour sale, 24-hour sale. It goes every Wednesday, 24-hour sale. Now, how many more things can you say in a subject line on a 24-hour sale when most people only travel once a year, and even people like me only travel 20 or 30 times a year? But I know that they do a 24-hour sale. And I know that next time I'm thinking about going and I want to travel, I'll go into my inbox and I say, oh yeah, if I wait till Wednesday, I'll get the sale and see what's happening there. That's how it works. It works really well. One other funny thing about frequency and trust and how people feel about your brand, there's some research we did in the UK. If anyone wants to know, I think there's a link to it at the back of my presentation, but send me an email or LinkedIn or whatever it is, and I will send it to you. And what we did was we asked the question, how many of the email, first of all we said, how many emails do you get every month from brands you trust? 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 50 plus, right? A staggering number of people get 20, 30, 40 emails from brands they trust. They've signed up for them. They're cool with it. Then the next question was, what percentage of the emails you receive from brands you trust are interesting or relevant? Okay? About 20% of the people said less than 10% are interesting or relevant. So we cross-correlated it with the number of emails they got. And guess what? All the people who said they didn't get any interesting or relevant emails were the people who didn't get any emails. So if you do the surveys and you say, you know, what do you think about email? Are you getting too many? Understand that too many is a different number for everybody in the room. And email haters are email haters. They will get 2 and they'll tell you that they're inundated with irrelevant emails. How many do you get? 2. Shut up. I'm not interested in your thoughts. You're not valid. But the people who got 20 plus, they overwhelmingly said 50, 60% of the emails they get are interesting and relevant. Isn't that interesting? So beware numbers people give you. And everyone's been given lots of numbers, and I'm using stats as well. But I never use rates. I always count the numbers. I count the numbers. Because if you send one email a month, your open rate will be 15%. Send one a week, your open rate will go down to 10%. The difference is, one a month, only 15% of your list open one email. One a week, it's 40%. It's not quite 40 because before anybody who's a statistician starts telling me, oh, but some people open it twice, I know exactly what that proportion is. 2% of your list will open every email you send them. Why? That's just stupid. But anyway, what could Coca-Cola do that would make me open every email they send? What can you do to make someone open every email you send? It's physically impossible, so don't try. Hands up. And when you chase open rates, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get everyone to open every email, and I don't care how many emails, what percentage of the list opens an email. I just want to know in a month what percentage of my database opened at least one email. And one of the presentations talked about that today, saying, you know, if you go and take conversion rate as total visits, then you're being silly because it's unique that really matters. It's the same thing with open rates and frequency. Open rates make you go blind. And I think there's a link to a paper on that here as well. So the way to think about it is that every single email you send is an opportunity for the person who gets it to engage with your brand. And when you do presentations, you see I like putting pictures because it's funny. And I found this one, I really liked it. So they got engaged. And he goes, she said yes. And she goes, because he asked. You cannot engage with an email you didn't get. But you can engage with an email you do, even if it's to say, oh, you know what, I want to unsubscribe. But who unsubscribes? The people who unsubscribe are those people who only get 2 emails a year anyway, are email haters, and will never buy your goddamn product anyway. Get rid of them. I love unsubscribes. And it's really, 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 really hard to get your unsubscribe rate on an opt-in list that you have grown organically over 1%. It's really, really hard to do that. And even if it goes to 1%, all you have to do is make your growth, new people, 2%. And if you don't have a goal that says, I'm going to grow my list by 2%, you're an idiot. Hands up here, who has a goal for list growth? It's going to be very low. It's pathetic. It's the number one thing that makes an email list active and work. And number 2 is sending them more email. So the question is, how do I grow my list? And how do I get them to like the more email that I send? It could be happy birthday. Everyone goes, really clever. They sent a happy birthday email. What a great marketer. No, it's just another email. Abandon shopping cart. You abandon your shopping cart. Oh, that's really clever. No, it's another email. Right? Browse behavior. Oh, you came to the website, look for this. Here's an email. That's another email. And everyone goes, oh, it's because it was a really clever trigger, and I used this software, and the software was this, and I did it automatically and in my sleep and while I was in bed. And no, it's just another email. And again, don't break my rule. I have a don't be stupid rule. The don't be stupid rule says, if I tell you it's safe to leave the building, don't tell me that it's not safe if you jump from the 20th floor. That's stupid, right? So if I say send more email, don't say, oh, well, if you send a horrible, irrelevant one with ugly content, then they will... No, I didn't say that. That's your job to figure out how to send more. And I think I'm getting signs that we're nearly over. Am I over? Right. So, I'm hoping I've annoyed enough people to get some questions. I can almost predict what those questions are, and I'm so good at answering it's going to be like baseball. That's to frighten you. So the brave people do that. I just wanted to say there's quite a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff on our website. You guys might be interested. I didn't put a slide here. We've developed a tool called Touchstone, which is a subject line, open and click rate predictor. It's written in English, but it will work if you put subject lines in any language in on your own data, but it won't be able to cross-refer against others. The URL is subjectlinegold.com. Go and have a play. It's free beta trial at the moment. Open. It works. If you have English language, that's great. If you don't, you have to upload data to get a value out of it. Thank you very much. I hope I woke you all up. I certainly woke myself up. I can't wait for a beer. And I'm looking forward to engaging with you guys in a bit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a question from audience? Okay, yes, we have. You just say, I will, repeat.
I'm not working with emails and email marketing, but I found a bit intimidating when I search something, for instance, on Amazon, just some random stuff, and afterwards they send me like on a daily basis offers based on my search, and actually I'm not that interested in that. I was just skipping through some pages, and afterwards they are sending me those emails. And I find it very intimidating. How do you feel about this kind of marketing?
Okay, the question was, maybe you can repeat it.
So the question was, it's not just Amazon that do it, lots of people do it. You go to Amazon and you're searching for a few things, and then afterwards you start getting emails making offers based on that, and you said you find it a bit intimidating, creepy, that sort of stuff? Okay. Now, funnily enough, they do that on the web a lot, but no one complains about when the banner starts following you. Has anyone noticed retargeting? It's like they're just following you everywhere with banners. And it's one of the things that I feel about ultra-personalization, okay? When you get it wrong, it's terrible, okay? And there are certain circumstances where you shouldn't use it. Why Amazon use it is because they've looked at the numbers, and for every one of you, there's 500 people who don't care or don't notice, or even 5,000. So for them, it's a numbers game. And essentially, we're in a numbers game, okay? And so that's the other thing to remember. Just because you're like that doesn't mean all your customers are going to be like that. So on things like frequency tests, people say, oh, I'm sending one a week, I'll test 2, maybe 3. No one goes, let me test one an hour, see what happens, right? So our own, I call it fear and self-loathing in email marketing. So we're so scared of being called a spammer, right, that we don't do what we know is right. So the answer to your question is, that's a personal view, and it's a bit like the people who say, I hate email but only get 1 or 2. Amazon have calculated, and that's one of the reasons why their sales are so huge, that actually your view doesn't matter. Now, that goes against everything we've heard today about how every single individual's opinion should be taken as seriously as every other one. No, I don't believe that at all. Yes. And the people who say otherwise will try and make you think that the small number is more valuable than the big number, right? So here's a common statistic. People who are engaged with your email program are 4 times more likely to buy from you than people who aren't engaged with your list. That's true. But only 1% of your list is fully engaged, right? And 90% are lightly engaged. So the amount of money you get from people who only open 1 email a year is far more than the amount of money that you get from people who open every goddamn email you send. Look at the number, not the rate. And people who sell software and consultants like me are very, very good at quoting rates and not numbers. So whenever I hear, we did this and we increased the conversion rate by 3,122.3%, I go, he's either lying or he was sending it to one person, right? Because the only way you're going to get that, if it was that easy, we'd all be billionaires, right? We'd all be billionaires. So be careful of rates and look at numbers. Okay. Any other questions? I was nice.
ROI of email marketing.
Here's the question, why do you want to know? And what do you do? Why do you want to know?
Okay, there's another question. What's the ROI of social media?
Okay, the funniest thing is, I've never ever heard anybody transform their business, except if you're in B2B in very exceptional circumstances, right? A consumer brand make more money from social media than they do from email. I have never ever heard of it. The only people who make money out of social media commercially are social media consultants and people who sell software and services. It's true. And my guess is that that's your background. Now, you could argue the same is true on email, but I'll tell you now, any statistic will tell you that the return on investment on email is significantly higher, as in you spend £1 in this, because it's nearly free and you don't have to pay an idiot, Facebook, not you, Facebook, Twitter, for the traffic, for the click. You don't have to do that. So it's hard for the return on investment when you're putting stuff on social media to be better than the return on email that costs you nearly $0 to send out. And that's the challenge. The other thing is the numbers. The traffic you get from most social media is much lower than the traffic that you'll ever get from email. So it's starting from a bigger place. That does not mean you shouldn't use social media. I use it. Look, I tweet. I don't do Facebook. If you send me something, in fact, the best way to hide something from me is to put it on Facebook. I'll never find it. I do LinkedIn. I've been forced to do Twitter by my company because it's effective. It's very effective at content marketing, and it's very effective at B2B. It's less effective at B2C because the audience don't really want Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter to be selling to them. They don't want that. B2B people, we're paid to find this stuff out, and we love it when someone makes our life easier by saying, look at this, then you retweet it. And here's the funny thing. I keep meaning, and I haven't done it yet because I don't want to embarrass anybody, there are so many people who just retweet everything I say without actually clicking through and reading it, okay? And I keep wanting to put something completely random and stupid. Anyone familiar with Rick Rolling? So just some song or a YouTube video for something completely useless and then say, the conversion rates in email are 5 times bigger than social media, and watch people just retweet it without reading it. That would be funny, but I don't want to do that to anybody. And if I did it the other way around, social media beats email, bloody hell, it will go viral. But no one will read it because actually the point is they don't read it, it's just to be seen to be tweeting. That's the other danger. Everybody, don't say I'm saying don't do social media. Feel free to spend as much money as you like on it, but don't try and convince me that it's more effective than email because I just won't accept it. And I know. And I can prove it.
Okay. Questions? We have a question. It's more like a technical question. Okay, I'm somewhere not in a good spot, I guess. About how to avoid like spam filters, like Gmail spam filters, like maybe some general thoughts on that.
Yes, the deliverability question. When I have wrestled all the people who disagree with me to the ground, and they should surrender, they then go, what about the spam filter? You'll get blocked. The answer is, you don't, unless you do something stupid, okay? So if you practice good list hygiene, so your acquisition methods are good, so it's opt-in, you don't have to do double opt-in, but you actually don't buy a list. Or if you buy a list, let the person who sold you the list send the email, right? Let them send it, not you. You would be very foolish to take a list from somebody, upload it, and send it yourself, okay? So if you start with 100% opted-in clean database, and you practice good practice, so you do things like DKIM and all the technical things that your deliverability people and ESPs are supposed to do for you, the thing that you pay them for and they hate. Have you noticed deliverability people, the first thing they say, well, you should stop sending those emails to those people because I hate being woken up in the middle of the night to do my job. I just want an easy life. So if you do all the good things, higher frequency will actually clean your list and you'll get better deliverability. And I've seen it, there's a product called EDS Analyst, and Return Path has something called Inbox Insight, which They've given us free access to go and play with, and I can see that every email sent by every mailer in the US and the UK, and believe you me, the people who send more have better deliverability than the people who send less. And if you remember in my presentation, I told you about the slug, the familiarity, right? If you don't send an email for 3, 4, 5 months or something like that, and suddenly they get one, they go, oh my God, that's spam. And that's what happens to people who suddenly start doing something different, right? So I'm not saying there's no deliverability problems, but we have no, I would say, true deliverability consultants, people who only do deliverability in our organization because it hasn't been necessary. And it hasn't been necessary because our clients are good brands, operating a good policy. They use common sense and best practice in email and everything else, and they don't have problems. So hands up, if you are a bad brand selling terrible emails to people who don't know you, then yeah, you will have deliverability problems. But I know there won't be anyone in this room like that because you've paid to come here.
Okay, one more question to the audience. How many of you will send out more emails? Yay!
There you go. Don't forget, don't be stupid. It's harder to send more than less. Yeah, think of good reasons. A good example is every 2 or 3 months or something like that, say, let me do 3 deals a day or 3 deals in 1 day or something like that. Mix it up. Sometimes you send 2 in a week, sometimes 3 in a week, then you go back to your normal, whatever it is. So send more email, but be clever and creative about it. And remember, the important part of the term email marketing is marketing. It's not email. Email's just the channel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.